Good morning, or depending on where you are, good afternoon or good evening. I'm Steve Strauss, USA Today Small Business Columnist and author of the Small Business Bible. And I'd like to welcome you today to the Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Access to Capital Hangout Series. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, namely crowdfunding. You know, several years ago, in the middle of the not-so-great recession, my editor came to me and my publisher and said, "Hey Steve, let's do a book about all the other ways a business could be funded." Right? Because in the middle of the recession, boy, getting the money you needed to fund your business wasn't so easy. And so we did. We wrote a really interesting book called Get Your Business Funded, Creative Ways for Finding the Money You Need. And I came up with 25 different ways to fund your business. In the middle of that, it was right when crowdfunding was becoming a big deal. Kickstarter was getting a lot of news, just getting started, Indiegogo, this kind of thing. And so this is a subject that has really become very important to a lot of small businesses. A lot of businesses are getting funded this way. And what we're going to do today is help you understand what crowdfunding is, how it works, whether it's right for your business, and if it is right for your business, how to get started and create a successful crowdfunding campaign. Because that's the gold standard these days, right? And so to help me do this, we have a great panel who I'd like to introduce. First, we have Lloyd Cambridge, who's the director of New York City Business Solutions. Lloyd, welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your background in crowdfunding.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I can't see you guys, but welcome. Again, my name is Lloyd Cambridge. I'm with NYC Business Solutions Center, which is a city program here in New York City, and essentially we help companies in New York City start operating and expand. And one of the things that we're really passionate about is really helping entrepreneurs get access to financing. We developed a program last year called Fuel Your Dream, where we essentially helped about 20 business owners here in New York City develop their crowdfunding campaigns and really be able to raise money via those platforms. So I'm excited to be able to share today some of the lessons learned from last year.
Fantastic, thank you. With us as well as Erica Dorn, and Erica is the financial strategist at Bernoulli Finance. Is that right? Is that how you say it, Erica?
Yes, Steve. Thanks. That's correct. Great to be here. I'm really excited. Crowdfunding is a topic that I love to discuss and one I've been involved in for a long time. But that's right. I do financial strategy for small businesses. And I should preface that I generally work with food and farm businesses to help them think about funding in the long term. So not just the immediate needs that the business might have, but what's the strategy over the long term to keep the business funded. And of course, with crowdfunding, to also create relationships and gain more exposure for your business. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Next is Jeffrey Bekiares, who is the co-founder of SparkMarket. Jeffrey, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. And thanks to Dun & Bradstreet. Really happy to be here today. I'm a securities lawyer by trade. I'm sort of a recovering lawyer, if you will. I practiced securities law full-time for about 7 years before I realized that the businesses that I cared about, folks that were in my peer group and my age group, were starting businesses. They were part of small and emerging enterprises, and they couldn't get funding. I mean, they were falling into those funding gaps. Didn't have enough revenue or operating history to get to get a loan from a traditional lender. Too small for venture capitalists, not interesting enough for angel investing. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. We didn't have a huge angel investing community that was developed here. So that's how I got into crowdfunding, and I became particularly interested in securities-based, equity-based crowdfunding. And as it happened, when I kind of picked up the baton of being particularly interested in crowdfunding, Georgia passed was only the second state union to pass a law to actually permit equity-based crowdfunding here in Georgia. So I co-founded SparkMarket, and we were the first platform in the United States to host a successful equity-based crowdfunding campaign in 2013.
So that's great. Equity-based crowdfunding is a new thing. We'll talk about that in a second. And I don't know if you know, but I am an attorney as well. And like you, I came to my senses many years ago. It's a good foundation, and we're glad we get to do this, right? And finally, we have Justin Renfro, who is the program manager at Kiva Zip. Hey, Justin, how are you?
Hi, Steve. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined Kiva back in 2012. I actually started as an intern, and over the past 3 years, I've grown into the role where I oversee the Kiva Zip program across the United States. And my key job is to support as many entrepreneurs as we possibly can. Over the past 3 years, we've supported over 1,000 entrepreneurs that have raised interest-free loans on Kiva Zip that have been crowdfunded on our platform. And excited to be here and talk about best practices and what we've seen in the space.
Well, fantastic. So we really do have quite the power panel, great panel to help share some insights today. And I want to begin by kicking things off and talking about crowdfunding generally. You know, one of the things I think is quite amazing about crowdfunding is that it created, at least rewards-based crowdfunding, is that it created a whole new way to fund a business that was never around before. Traditionally, there were basically two ways to fund a business: debt financing or equity financing. Right? Debt financing is you take on some debt, you get a loan, that kind of thing. Or equity-based financing, which is you sell a share of your company and you create some funding that way. Crowdfunding created a third category in my mind, so I think that's kind of interesting and really actually kind of amazing. So I'd like to get your perspective, all of you actually, to start with, on what you see crowdfunding is, how generally it works, and what people really kind of need to know just when they're looking at starting a campaign. Lloyd, why don't we kick it off with you?
Yeah, sure. I really think that crowdfunding is about connecting and engaging with a community of people that are interested in supporting your project in some capacity, right? And there might be different reasons why someone might be interested in supporting a project, whether it's a business, whether you're going to start a flower shop, or you have a film, or you have you're trying to expand your yoga studio. There might be different reasons why someone might want to support your cause or your campaign or your project. And some of those reasons could be you might have really great incentives, for example, or it could be because they really connect with your mission or your purpose, or it can be other reasons, such as you just have a really great product and they really want to buy into that product that you have. So again, it's really about connecting and engaging a community of people that really care about your project, and they want to kind of get a return on caring. And you have to be able to prove and tell your story.
Erica, what are your thoughts on the big view of what crowdfunding is and how it should work and what people need to know to begin with?
Sure. I think what's fascinating at the basis of crowdfunding is the fact that it's democratized funding. So whereas it was, it's very difficult, it can be very difficult for a business to get a loan from the bank or to get investment through an angel investing firm or through a VC. Crowdfunding represents a democratized way of sourcing funds from people potentially all over the world and people you don't know. But we also have to think of it as an age-old strategy. I mean, crowdfunding in a sense is raising money through friends and family and through your networks, and that's existed for forever. And that's been probably the first way to fund a business. So in some ways it's a return to an ancient form of funding, but in using technology that makes your networks vast and allows you to really tap into some potential exposure and relationships that can help your business in the long run. So it's exciting. It's I think it opens up a whole world of potential for those that have been potentially underbanked or left out of access.
That's a great point, that it really is kind of at least reward-based crowdfunding is a return to friends and family. I've never thought of that before. Justin, what's your take on crowdfunding for everybody?
Yeah, well, I think it's a beautiful outlet to tell your story and to articulate why you became an entrepreneur and why your business, what problem you're solving, what your business is doing, and why you need this money. And I think for a lot of the entrepreneurs that we see, it's a very valuable learning experience to market yourself online and tell your story and put yourself out there. And I think that both from a local and global community. The fact that your immediate kind of first-degree network can contribute to you and fund you, but also have that potential for a global audience to see your business. It's a beautiful marketing platform, and something that's really, really powerful for entrepreneurs, and having an online presence and attracting a global audience of people to be attracted and interested in what you're doing.
And Jeff, what do you see with SparkMarket? What are people doing right and wrong, and what do they need when you coach them about doing your type of crowdfunding? What is it that you tell them they need to know?
Sure, absolutely. So obviously I certainly agree with my colleagues, and just to quickly follow up on something Erica said that relates to your instant question, Steve, the internet is an organizing tool, but the organizing principle itself of crowdfunding is age old. One of the things that I think is unique about the emerging space of equity crowdfunding is that unlike simple, or not simple, let me not say simple, but traditional rewards or donation-based crowdfunding, instead of just looking for that initial bump to capitalize your business or take your business to the next level, you're looking to convert those folks into ongoing customers and brand evangelists. So at the end of a successful equity crowdfund, you should be thinking about, how did I not just activate that crowd to fund whatever it is that I'm looking for, be it a startup or be it expansion capital for my business, but how do I convert those folks into my customers going forward that'll make it more likely that my small business will actually succeed in the years to come. So I think that converting a mindset of folks who are interested in crowdfunding from an initial bump to something that you can actually, that has a trailing
That's a good point, and I think one thing we need to point out is that there is a difference between rewards-based crowdfunding and equity-based crowdfunding. When most people think of crowdfunding, I think what they're thinking about is rewards-based, and that is, the example I like to use is, you open a sandwich shop and you ask people to donate to your cause, to your dream, and for $100 you'll name a sandwich after them for a week or a month, something like that, and for $250 you'll do it for a month or something like that. That's reward-based crowdfunding. Equity-based crowdfunding is different in that you're actually doing equity financing. Well, in fact, I think, Jeff, you're the one to ask about that. Why don't you tell us a little bit how equity financing, equity crowdfunding is different than rewards-based crowdfunding?
Sure, absolutely right. In rewards-based crowdfunding, as you mentioned, Steve, the typical model is that your business will offer some kind of a perquisite to folks in your crowd that are able to activate to support you. So to use your example, you own a sandwich shop. Folks pitch in $10, they can come to the launch party. They pitch in $25, they get free sandwiches for a week, and then it tiers up from there. Equity-based crowdfunding can integrate some of those components, but it goes one step further and says to your crowd, would you actually like to be an owner in my business? So if you pitch in $100 or $1,000, you might get some of those attached perquisites, but then you'll also potentially get a profits interest in the business going forward. So if the business becomes profitable, then the folks who supported that crowdfunding campaign can reap the rewards of that. We tend to think of equity, most folks do, strike that, of equity when we think of securities-based or equity-based crowdfunding, but it works with debt as well. And so small businesses can go to their customer base in a crowdfund and they can say, I'm trying to raise $50,000, I've got a restaurant, I need the money to expand and buy a food truck. I can't get the loan from the bank, I don't have access to traditional sources of capital, I'd like to sell my customers notes at 5% or 7% interest, something along those lines. It helps them get access to that debt financing and not have to give up an equity piece to the business. And that's all part of securities-based crowdfunding. And these are tools in the toolbox that a lot of small businesses don't know about. But those are the primary differences between traditional rewards-based crowdfunding and equity-based crowdfunding.
And Jeff, is equity-based crowdfunding now available in every state? I know the Jobs Act was passed and the SEC is trying to enact some regulations with regard to that. Can anyone, anywhere do equity-based crowdfunding now?
No, definitely not. And that's a very, very important point to make, Steve. I'm glad you brought that up. When SparkMarket was founded in Georgia in 2012, we were only the second state in the union to permit that. And it's what we call intrastate crowdfunding. So it's businesses within that state raising money from investors within that state. So it's within the four corners of the state. Kansas and Georgia were the first states to permit that. Today, as we sit here, I believe that list is now 14, maybe even now 15 states and growing. So that trend is expanding. You still can't cross state lines to do it. We have an act in place on the federal level called the Jobs Act that, in theory, permits folks to do intrastate equity-based crowdfunding. But those regulations are tied up in the Securities and Exchange Commission right now. They have been for over 2 years. And you can ask a whole bunch of industry experts how they read the tea leaves on when those regulations are going to come out and whether or not they'll be useful. But in the meantime, we're on a state-by-state, case-by-case basis. So you need to check with a crowdfunding professional whether it's available in your state.
Okay, so far we have equity-based crowdfunding and rewards-based crowdfunding. Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Kiva Zip is? I mean, I know what Kiva is, where you go to kiva.org and you can donate to a third world, at least from what I understand, entrepreneur, that kind of thing. But Kiva Zip is a new thing that Kiva is doing crowdfunding. Can you explain how it works to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kiva Zip makes interest-free loans to entrepreneurs around the world. Kiva Zip is our U.S. program of Kiva. Over the past 10 years, Kiva supported over 1.5 million entrepreneurs, and there's been a primary focus in the developing world. Kiva Zip focuses on the U.S. market for the sole fact that, when you look at the financing landscape in the U.S., banks are rejecting 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs because of credit score, or collateral, or years in business, or cash flows. And what Kiva Zip is saying is, if you are a good person, if you have strong character, and if you have a community of people around you that believe in you, we're going to take a chance, and we're going to support you. And we provide loans to entrepreneurs at 0% interest. And what I think is so unique about Kiva in comparison to other crowdfunding platforms is when you have a 0% interest loan, I can lend $25 to a farmer in Uganda that gets repaid to me. Then I take that same $25 and lend it to a bakery in Milwaukee. That gets repaid to me. The same $25 goes to a coffee shop in San Francisco. So we've got 1.4 million lenders around the world that have made a loan. And it's like one large revolving loan fund. So this money is just being recycled to more and more entrepreneurs, and the size of the pot continues to grow. And what makes that specifically beneficial to us is we found that 80% of the money raised on Kiva Zip comes from lenders around the world or strangers that you don't know, whereas the majority of crowdfunding platforms are coming from your immediate network. On Kiva Zip, the vast majority are coming in outside of your immediate network. And on Kiva Zip, 95% of the entrepreneurs that we post onto our website fully fund, where you might see a 10% on Indiegogo, 40% on Kickstarter. Because of that revolving loan fund that exists on Kiva, the vast majority of our entrepreneurs are able to secure their loan at 0% interest from a global audience.
That's fantastic. I did not know really about your what a resource that is before, so that's really interesting. And let's then talk, Justin, I'm going to kick it back to you for this one too. Let's talk about what it takes to create a successful crowdfunding campaign to start with. So if somebody likes this idea and they want to crowdfund, I mean, I have a friend of mine recently who said, well, all I have to do is put up a video on Kickstarter and I'm going to get $10,000. And that's not how it works. But I do think people kind of think that is how it's going to work. So what does it take to create a successful crowdfunding campaign from the start?
Yeah, well, I think first you have to understand why what you need money for. Something that I see over and over again, especially on rewards-based platforms, is just like, we need money to grow, and someone from the outside is going to look at that. They want to know specifically how their money is being used. So having a very specific reason, I need $10,000 because I want to do X, Y, and Z, is really, really important, articulating that picture. And I think that, to go a higher level than that, just being able to articulate your story and articulate your business and have that flow, having a video to accompany that, or a really, really good picture where people can sense who you are, the person you are, the business that you have, the purpose that you have this campaign online. the better you can tell your story, the better that you can show the type of person you are, the business that you have, and the purpose of that loan or donation that you're requesting, the better. I think that that's where a lot of people fall short. Is they'll just cruise through Indiegogo, spend 15 minutes setting up a campaign, but they don't ever really get that. They're not telling their story. You should view it as a marketing channel, and the beauty of a marketing channel is you're able to tell that story. So the more precise you can get to those key points of your story, so that people can spend 30 seconds reading through your page and get it and understand what you're trying to do and have the opportunity to contribute, is so important. On Kiva Zip, we find that the photo, we don't have videos on Kiva Zip, so it's really just the photo that drives the loan volume on our website. It's, if it's a grainy photo that's a headshot or a logo, you're not going to raise money. But if it shows who you are and that smile and that business, people are able to make that connection, and that's so powerful.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And a lot of other sites, it's the video or it's other marketing tools. Lloyd, let me ask you, what is it people need to know about crowdfunding, their first campaign, that you might not quite get? What is the common misperceptions you see at your organization?
Yeah, sure. I think folks need to create a business plan. To be honest, I think even before you consider launching crowdfunding campaign, you need to really sit down with yourself and really kind of strategically think through all of the different components that will essentially make you successful with a campaign, right? So what does that look like? What does that mean? One of the things you want to consider, obviously, is like looking at the product, looking at the thing that you're actually going to offer. Like, what are the features? What are the benefits of what you're looking to bring to the marketplace, right? If you're going to create a film, if you're going to, again, a yoga studio or a flower shop or whatever it is, if you're a cupcake shop that you want to build, what are the features and benefits of that? And then I think you want to, in your plan, also look at your target market, your target audience, right? Like who are going to be the folks that are essentially going to donate to your campaign, right? You want to really be able to segment that list. Look at family and friends, right? Who are those people? What's important to them? Why would this product or service or this campaign be important to them? Look at bloggers. Look at all the different influencers, and kind of really think about this thing that I call WIFM, which is what's in it for me, essentially, right? So what's in it for the person that you're looking to target, and then you want to essentially start going into after you identify the product, after you identify who your target audience is, really think about what are the ways that you're going to really strategically market the campaign to those different segments, right? So again, it kind of goes back to Business 101. You really need to have a plan in place, because it really requires a lot of work, and you really have to almost develop what we call like a project management system. And as we kind of go through the discussion, we can talk about like creating a content management system, essentially, right? A content calendar. So on this day, I know essentially on Facebook or via email, I'm going to have this type of content that I'm going to deliver to these specific segments of the market that I'm trying to target to essentially donate to my campaign. So I really think, Steve, it really goes back to having a basic business plan that really outlines product, that outlines the target markets, how you're going to attract them, and also it goes back to funding as well, how much money you need. I thought Justin brought up a good point. How much money do you need, and what's the purpose of it? And then really being able to figure out, and I think we'll talk about this later, in terms of what's the real amount of money that you need, and then also think about fulfillment as well. So all these things, all these components really need to go into a plan before you even execute. So it's not as easy as you think.
Exactly. And Jeff, I imagine that it's not altogether that much different with equity-based crowdfunding. What works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. There's a lot of overlap, and one of the things that I've tried to impress upon folks who are thinking about putting a campaign together is to think of it in segments. Behind the page, on the page, and beyond the page. And so many folks try to focus so much on the page portion of it. Like you said in the introductory question, okay, if I put up a video, people are going to come. Well, that's not really true. The vast majority of successful campaigns have put together a behind-the-page effort that is weeks or months in advance. that's putting all of the elements together that we understand, including the video and the copy and the images and all the rest of it. But it's also planning your outreach strategy, as Lloyd mentioned, planning your social media strategy as well as your traditional media strategy, and your just bricks and mortar outreach strategy. And that's where beyond the page kind of comes in. And this is one of the things that I think is particularly important for equity-based crowdfunding in my field, is that so much of what we do is hyper-local. So right now, just based on the very nature of our industry, all of the offerings we work with are local. And so, there's no reason why you just want to put a video up on your page and then hope you're going to reach people, or, maybe tweet some things out and hope good things are going to happen. Get out there and throw a party, shake hands, kiss babies, do events, have launch parties, invite people to touch the product, interact with it, understand what it is, meet you, figure out where you live, where you do business, what you're all about. And then plan accordingly for the kind of time and effort and energy that it takes into planning and executing those kind of things. So I really encourage folks to think beyond the page, and I think that matters for both equity-based as well as rewards-based crowdfunding.
This idea of beyond the page is so important. In fact, it's the biggest mistake that I see people make when it comes to crowdfunding, that they think just putting up a video is going to get them their funding, as I said in my question to all of you. And what works in the crowdfunding campaigns that I have seen that have been successful are the ones where people put in they take it as a marketing effort. It's a marketing campaign. It's not just I'm going to raise some money by doing a video, but I'm in fact going to market my video and my project and my idea to my network, and I'm going to follow up, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to market it bigger and bigger. That's how it works. It doesn't work by whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you don't put a lot in, I don't think you should expect to get a lot out. Erica, have you found that to be true as well?
Absolutely, yes. I agree with all of these points. And my favorite axiom in terms of crowdfunding is if you're going to do it, be prepared to do it right, and do it right, because you will reap the benefits if you put the effort in up front. But I do think it comes back to what your goals are with the campaign. I mean, if you're doing Kiva Zip, you don't necessarily need to think about all the different incentives that you're offering, because you are not offering incentives. If you are doing Kickstarter, you need to think about how you're going to price it, because one of the biggest mistakes I've seen is people thinking that they're walking away with the full sum of money that they're raising on Kickstarter or another platform, when in fact every incentive you're offering is costing you money as an entrepreneur in most cases, and you need to factor that into the price of the money that you're receiving, and you need to compare that against other options. So it's a financial transaction. It's a business generate revenue. You could consider it revenue for your business, and it's pre-sale in a lot of ways. So thinking about your goals as a business ahead of time are really important. And I agree. I actually have run my own. I have a farm on Staten Island, and I've run a crowdfunding campaign myself. And to someone's point earlier, it goes so beyond the campaign. I mean, I have a list of 800 backers that I still communicate with when I need to reach out for potential CSA members, and that's true for any business. This becomes a business within your business if you want to leverage it to the full potential. And I think that's something we forget about in business, is just the relationships that you're building are super important, and I think this is absolutely an opportunity to build more relationships.
Erica, let me follow up with this question about incentives, because people don't quite know, if they're new to crowdfunding, what is the right kind of incentive? How do you know how to price an incentive? What is an incentive? What do you think about when you think about an incentive that people are, going to want?
Sure. So my best advice is treat it like you would drafting your, like Lloyd mentioned, drafting your business plan. You need to do research. I recommend that you research similar campaigns that have been successful on many different platforms, and also price those out for yourself. So if you decide you're going to offer tote bags, make sure you look into the cost of those tote bags before you price them on your campaign, for example, because I know a lot of businesses have run into the issue where maybe they underprice something so that this crowdfunding campaign is now costing them money. Maybe that's okay if you're getting the exposure from it, but probably not. So I recommend creating a dashboard for your campaign. You would have a list of all the potential rewards that you would offer, and you would try to come up with the number of incentives that you'll offer in each of those categories. And the beauty of crowdfunding is there is a lot of data. It's on a technology platform, and the data is open source in a lot of cases. So you can look into what are the most popularly priced incentives, what are the most popular types of incentives, and get scientific about it. I think that approach can help you be more successful. You also, if anything you can do to build in the types of incentives that you don't have to send out is highly recommended, because cost of shipping also gets in the way for a lot of businesses. So things like coming to events, or the opportunity to have if you're a cooking school, we'll come to you and teach you cooking. Those types of incentives are smart incentives because they don't cost the business as much money. So again, I think what everyone's mentioning is take the time to really think through this and be highly strategic, and talk to a lot of people that have done crowdfunding campaigns, because they're going to be your best source of failure information.
Let me let me throw out to the rest of you. Anybody have any thoughts on how to create the right incentives and what you should think about when you're creating your incentive package?
I'll chime in. I think one of the things you want to consider is to make sure that you have different levels for people to essentially be able to. One customer that we worked with last year, I think started his incentives at.
I'm a little technical difficulty here.
So essentially, he alienated a ton of people who could have donated under $50, but he started his incentive program at $50. So my point is you want a low barrier to entry for people to be able to donate to your campaign. So I know some folks that started at $1, right, and they go up to $500 or $1,000. I think the average incentive amount in terms of dollar amount is about $25. So you definitely want to have at least a $25 incentive somewhere in your mix. But my whole point is to make sure that you go low and you go high, because you want to have access for people to be able to donate to your campaign.
So let's talk about specifically how to get started. So when someone's ready to go, they've thought about their incentives, they want to create a campaign. Jeffrey, let me ask you to start with. People have to create a video. What kind of video do they need? What do they need to do beyond video to begin to market their campaign?
Sure. And I think there are some other folks who can speak very intelligently on this call to the specifics of the elements. I mean, I know what a lot of the industry knows, which is a 3-minute video is standard at this point and necessary. I mean, I wouldn't even post a crowdfunding campaign almost on any platform at this point without that has video. Some of them don't, as Justin mentioned earlier. But getting the AV in order is important, and it needs to be high quality. The copy and the AV elements and the video. In my industry, in equity-based crowdfunding, there are legal aspects that you have to address before you're ever even going to consider doing a crowdfunding campaign. There are securities laws involved, and you have to make sure that you either understand the parameters of those laws, or you're working with folks that can help you understand the parameters of those laws. I recommend 60 to 90 days of preparation. Equity crowdfunding campaigns are also a little bit different from rewards-based crowdfunding in that in rewards-based it's usually a 30 to sometimes outside 45-day window of keeping the campaign open. In equity, it's usually longer than that. It's usually 60 to 90 days. Part of that is regulatory because you've got additional hurdles that you have to jump over. And part of it is simply this strategy of getting beyond the page and making sure you have enough time to actually one-on-one reach the people that are going to be supporting your campaign. So, I recommend, again, 60 to 90 days preparation, and then probably 60 to 90 days for an equity campaign to leave open as well. So plan to have enough time to do it.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say very, very quickly, I wanted to add one thing to Erica's list earlier in terms of cost of fulfilling rewards, taxing. A lot of folks underprice their rewards, and they end up paying out to fill them and ship them, and then forget that they actually have to pay taxes on that money too. So price it out accordingly.
Hey, Justin, and tell us about at Kiva Zip. What does a campaign look like, and how does someone do a successful campaign there? It's not video per se then?
Yeah, totally. I think a better answer to that question is I just want to say it's really important to understand what the right crowdfunding platform is for your needs. That's something that I couldn't overstate. If you don't need a lot of money, if you don't have a huge network of people that you have available at your disposal, if you don't have the capacity to make a video, Kiva Zip is an awesome option for you. If you have this beautiful new sexy technology product and you're looking to raise $250,000, then go to Kickstarter. There's definitely, each crowdfunding platform has a different value proposition and a different target market that they're ideally positioned to support. So it's extremely important to think about kind of what are those things that I need? What are the, am I looking for a rewards base? Am I looking for equity? Am I looking for debt? How much money do I need? What do I have the capacity for? How big is my network? All of those factors should be strongly considered when deciding whether or not crowdfunding is a right fit, but more importantly, what crowdfunding platform kind of meets my needs specifically. When I'm reaching out to our entrepreneurs and discussing, what they should be preparing for, I typically say, find 15 to 30 people from your own network and write down their names and write down how much you think you can ask them for. The biggest mistake I see people make is like, well, I've been promoting it. I keep posting on Facebook, and Facebook is, it's in and out. If it doesn't really catch people, you need to be proactively reaching out to your, specific people within your network with specific asks. And that's where the preparation comes in. When you say you have to prepare 30 to 60 days before you launch a crowdfunding campaign, I think that that's good advice, because you have to prepare, like, how am I going to write my story? What are the visuals that are going to accompany that story? Who is it that I'm going to ask with my own network, and how much am I going to ask of them? These are all very important considerations, and again, goes back to the overarching, point, which is you have to figure out the right crowdfunding platform for you, because they all offer a different value proposition to different types of entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I think one thing people need to know is that there are so many different crowdfunding platforms available today. It's not just Kickstarter and Indiegogo, although those are the two that get the most ink. But I recently helped someone crowdfund a campaign, and he did it on a place called Celeband. He was, I think it was Celeband. He was creating his first album. If you Google your industry, your interest, your project, and crowdfunding, you're going to find several different crowdfunding options available. It's not just the big two. There are hundreds out there right now doing all sorts of different projects. So cast a wide net when you start analyzing what platform to go to. The most important thing that I think all of you have been saying is you really have to put time in to market this campaign. When I helped someone crowdfund, he came to me personally and said, hey, I'm doing a crowdfunding, can you help me? Lloyd, what do you think people need to know about the marketing of their campaign once they get it launched?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think even before you launch, you need to start kind of prepping your community. So I think, starting out by doing some basic things, like if you're not on social media, right, like get those accounts, right? Get a Twitter, get a Facebook, Pinterest, start to get on these platforms and start to prep people, let them know like what you're up to. I think it's also just making a list. Justin spoke about this, creating a list of as many people, create a list of everybody that you know, essentially, right? And I would really segment that list, like a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. Like tier 1s are the folks that you know that you can definitely kind of like rely on, and that you know that are going to kind of be influencers and kind of be brand ambassadors for you, and help you to not only donate to the campaign, but also to share it amongst their network. So I would start creating this list and put it on Excel. If you're not an Excel person, you can hire somebody to help you with this in this process. And essentially, you want to follow up with folks, right? So it's just not reaching out to them, but like having this Excel spreadsheet. Say I called Jane Doe today, and this is where we left off in the conversation, and follow up with her. Because a lot of the time, what you'll see that will happen is that you'll reach out to somebody and they'll commit to donating to the campaign, but then a week goes by and nothing happens, right? So do you have a follow-up plan of them to follow up with them in reference to them being able to actually donate? Email is also really great as well. So, start to develop your email list. You have free tools out there such as SurveyMonkey, MailChimp, and Constant Contact that can really help you to leverage email to be successful. I think email and face-to-face kind of, picking up the phone, kind of going back in the day and picking up the phone. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be via these social media outlets, but picking up the phone and saying, hey, I have this campaign. Are you willing to help me to not only donate but also to share?
Picking up the phone, right? That's a great idea. I saw this funny Seinfeld bit recently where he said, remember when the phone used to ring and people would say, "Oh, get it." Yeah, no one says that anymore. So yeah, pick up the phone for sure. Erica, let me ask you, what do you think the important marketing thing people need to know is when they're doing their crowdfunding campaign?
Sure. I think I have 2 points to make, and first is timing. There really is an art to launching a campaign at the right time. You probably wouldn't want to launch right at Christmas time if you're trying to raise money because people, or the holidays, because people are spending money in other areas, or they're already getting a lot of asks at that time. I also know that summer tends to be a bit slower. So if you have a business that if you're doing a campaign that is offering incentives, maybe you want to launch it around ahead of Christmas so that you can ship those gifts for the holidays, or do it around maybe Valentine's Day. But another piece of this marketing is that it is marketing, but I really come back to this idea that it's about your social capital. It's about the relationships that you have, and you can use crowdfunding as an opportunity to build more social capital, or really spend all of your social capital. And when you go out there with your campaign, you're really going out there wholehearted. You want to, if you're going to run it and you're going to do it right, and reach out and follow up and time it so that you're at events, meeting friends and talking with them about your campaign so that it's at the top of mind for them. And if you've done a good job of building social capital in your business, you'll find that your community will support you, and they'll appreciate that you were wholehearted in your approach. And I think we think the capital, the actual monetary capital that's being raised is most important, but I would say with crowdfunding, it's the social capital that you're both spending and building through the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. We're running a little low on time here, but before we go, I want to get from each of you your best tip that you would like people to take away from today's Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Google Plus Hangout. For me, the tip is take it seriously. Doing a crowdfunding campaign is a big project. It's not magic. It does take work, just like anything else in your business. If you take it seriously, you're going to have a much higher possibility of succeeding and getting the kind of funding that you want to get. So that's my tip, my best tip. Justin, what about you?
I would say pick the right platform. I think that so many times we see entrepreneurs come to us and it's really, Kiva Zip's not the right platform for them, and we see, entrepreneurs on other platforms where we think it's far more appropriate for them to be fundraising on our website, and, picking the right platform can be the difference between winning and losing in this, crowdfunding experience for you. So do your due diligence, do your research. As you said, Steve, take it seriously and put the time in to ensure you're going to succeed and get what you want out of the experience.
Jeffrey, what's your tip?
I would say be realistic and honest with yourself and your crowd about what you need and what's achievable. There are so many folks who have come to me over the course of the last couple of years and shared their dreams, and it's been great. It's been wonderful. And they say, I need $1 million. And I say, well, do you have a perpetual motion machine or cold fusion? And if you do, let's do this. But maybe if you just need, a little cash to get a food truck for your existing business, maybe that's $30,000. And maybe that's a lot more achievable from our sort of first and second circles, as opposed to hoping the campaign goes viral and somebody in Washington State helps you buy a food truck in Georgia, which is kind of unrealistic and not altogether honest. So I would say bringing realism and honesty into your campaign is going to serve you and your crowd well.
Very well. Erica, what say you?
It's my same message with anything. I think you need to have fun. You know, it's going to be a hard road, and you might as well make the best of it and have as much fun as you can in the process, because it can be fun. So keep that at top of mind in all of this.
You're in business for yourself. You better have fun, right?
Exactly.
And Lloyd, I'm going to give you the last word today.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's really about creating a team. I don't know if we necessarily covered that, but I think that you can't do this by yourself. It's going to take not only your community, but you're going to need some hands on deck, right? So find a friend, find 2 friends, find 3, 4, 5, as many as you can, to help you to manage the social media angle, to help you to manage the PR angle. So build a team of trusted people that can help you to implement the strategy.
That's a great point to end on, and we're going to have to leave it there. I want to give a huge round of thanks to Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Corporation for hosting this very interesting panel today, and for my panelists for joining us, Justin Renfro, Erica Dorn, Lloyd Cambridge, and Jeff Bekarias. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join us and learn about what you need to do to maybe take your business to the next level. If you have more questions or need more information, I'll encourage you to go to accesstocapital.com. That's accesstocapital.com. At that site, you can find videos, content, ideas, all sorts of ideas, not just about crowdfunding, but all sorts of ways to fund your business. And I'd like to encourage you to join us for our next in the series of Access to Capital Hangout panel events online. That's going to be February 18th, where we're going to be talking about alternative lending. So on behalf of Dun & Bradstreet Credibility, I'm Steve Strauss. Thanks for stopping by.